Okay.
Does anybody see the little dot confirming?
Yes. We just opened the Pledge of Allegiance. We're beginning recording, and Shannon will begin with roll call.
Felix Raimondo.
Present.
Kyle Elliott. Janine Riley.
Present. Sorry.
Jane Flanagan.
Present.
Carol Smith.
Here. Okay. So usually we don't have any public comment, but for tonight's meeting, well, I guess you're an invited guest, so that kind of follows under public comment. So Ed, do you want to give an introduction before we have our presentation?
Sure. All right.
I'll go on mute.
Okay. All right. Our intern for this year, Jessie Listener, is joining us, although I think she's on the other page. I can't see her right now, but I don't know how that's going to work. But she's put together a really nice little presentation for us. And I don't know, how can I get her on this screen? Can anybody see her?
I can see her. I think you just have to, well, for me, you have to swipe left, but I don't know.
And starts talking, she should bump up in the screen order.
Oh, now Shannon's there. Okay. Okay, Jessie, you ready?
Yeah, okay, so let me share my screen, make sure this will work. Okay, can you guys all see my slideshow?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so as Ed introduced me, I'm Jessie Listener. I was the intern this summer. I will be starting my senior year at the University of Delaware this fall. Not at the University of Delaware because we'll be online. That's where I'm studying, and I'm studying environmental engineering. So first I just want to talk about what I learned at the plant and what I learned about how it works. So the schematic diagram at the bottom of the screen is actually in the plant. So I took a picture of that to help me explain what I learned. So the star is where all of the raw sewage comes into. So that's all the water from the toilet to the showers and the baths and the laundry and the sinks and all of that good stuff. It comes in where the star is. And the first place it goes to is the pumping well, where it goes through a screening process where it gets out all the rags and all the big pieces of material. And then any other material that may get into the pipelines, like cardboard or anything like that, goes to number 2, which is the grit chamber. So it's ground down into a grit, and that gets put into a dumpster, which is taken to a dump later. The water is then transferred up the street to number 3, which is the primary clarifier. So going through the primary clarifier, the solids either settle down into sludge or they float to the surface, and the surface solids get skimmed off, and that is sent back to the start of the plant to go through the process again. And then that water then goes to the rotating biological contactors, which is 4. So there's 3 trains, there's A, B, and C, and the water goes through each of these, and the RBCs are basically big circular egg cartons that have organisms on them that rotate through the water to help eat up any of the bacteria that's in the water. Then the water is sent to 5, which is the secondary clarifier, which does the same thing as the primary. So more sludge settles out, more stuff rises to the top that gets skimmed off. Then that water is sent to number 6, which is the chlorine building, where chlorine is added to disinfect the water, and then sodium bisulfate is added to dechlorinate the water so that it meets the standards to be sent out into the river. The sludge that settles in the primary and secondary gets sent to the digester building, where from there it settles further, and any water that becomes the top layer, we can decant back to the star, so it just starts and goes through the process again. And then the settled sludge from the digester goes to the thickener, which then goes to the press, where all the water is pressed out of it, and then that solid waste is sent to a dump. So you can see also some of the pictures I took around the plant. My beautiful 6 a.m. sunrises coming up over the plant. So that was something I look forward to every day. One of the departments I was with was operations. So my main task every day was to take the readings bright and early. And Vinny from collections told me that the key to doing a good job was to make sure that the people after you have it easier and that you're helping their job be easier. So I made a cheat sheet, as you can see in the top left. That's the picture of the cheat sheet I made to help me know which numbers I'm taking and what page they go in the book and what the number means. It was actually very helpful for me, and it also actually became handy with the new hire. When he was sent out to go get numbers, he actually used my cheat sheet. So I'm glad to know that it's helpful and people use it. I also took plant samples. So I took the samples to test in our own lab at the plant for chlorine content and pH. And I also took samples, as you can see in the bottom left, to be sent out to the lab to be tested for fecal matter and such. I also helped take up the rags that were screened out at the pumping well. I walked around and found the dissolved oxygen in the water at different points in the process. Like I said, hosing and skimming was a big thing, just making sure the tanks are clean. I got to weigh the RBCs a few times, which is some back-breaking work to be bent over, but it's not bad. I also, like I said, helped with decanting, so to send the water back through the process. And then, although I never personally ran the press, I got to watch it happen, so that was very exciting. Collections is actually the department I started in. So with collections, I learned how to respond to PA1 calls, which is like the call before you dig hotline, which I see a lot of. They have billboards and everything for it along the turnpike, but I never really knew it was a big deal until now. I learned how to respond to them, how to spray paint the ground, or how to mark them in the system. And so now when I go out walking and I see different colored spray paint on the ground, I know what they mean now. I know what the different colors mean. I also helped change the flow charts at the pumping stations. I had to use the jetting truck, and I was even included in the training for the new truck, so that was exciting for me. Vinny actually taught me very well how to use it, and on my first day out with them, he let me run it by myself with supervision, obviously. It's harder than it looks, I'll give him that. So with the jetting truck, I learned how to flush the pipes and clean out the manholes. If you look at the bottom left picture, I found a manhole that had been missing for a while. I guess Marty and Vinny had been looking for it for a very long time and could not find it. And one day we went out and thank you, Carol. I looked at the map and I was like, I think it's in this area. And we found it. So that was a very exciting day for everyone. And I was thankful that after my time with collections had ended and I was with operations, they found a day to take me out and use the camera truck. So I got to help televise the pipeline. And then I also got to go on office runs to take stuff to the bank and the post office. So maintenance, I wouldn't say I spent a designated time with them. I spent a few days with them here and there whenever they needed help. Some of the things I did with them was I replaced air filters. I put up signs so people would clean up after their dog. I helped grease the motors to keep those running well. And we also saved birds from the clarifier, which actually happened again today. A bird was trying to eat the grease that was floating on top and got covered and couldn't fly. So we saved him and we cleaned him off and let him dry. And then he flew away all happy. So it was a good feeling. Thank you. So I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Ed and the board, all of you. First of all, just for even having this internship, especially this summer. I know myself included, a lot of students had their internships canceled with everything going on. And it was a very uncertain summer for a lot of people. And I was very fortunate and blessed to even find this opportunity and to be selected for it and give me all this experience. And I really appreciate it. I thank Vinny and Marty for taking me out and showing me how to use the truck. And Mo and John, even though I wasn't with them a whole lot, they showed me how things work. And if I broke something, like I accidentally dropped a hose once and kind of broke it a little bit, they fixed it for me. Pat and Mike taught me like how to go around the plant and how to keep things running smoothly. And Shannon and Linda in the office, they showed me the ropes and how everything works and how to answer phone calls when no one else was there, which was a little nerve-wracking, but I made it through. And I actually enjoyed my summer a lot more than I thought I would. And I think it was a really good opportunity. So I just wanted to say thank you. And that's
Very
my
good.
presentation.
Jesse, thank you. That was wonderful. We
Thank you.
appreciate the work that you put in for us. And Ed, thank you so much for being a good supervisor for her. And please tell all the other coworkers at the plant that they were recognized this evening in her wonderful presentation.
Absolutely.
Does
Jesse-
anyone have any questions for Jess?
Yeah,
ahead.
I'd like to say to Jesse, that was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us at the Authority. We love having young students come down and hands-on and learning and we hope it was of value to you for your future careers. Any idea on where that career path might take you?
Right now I have some interest in construction because I know one of my friends has been working with construction companies from the engineering aspect. And so far that is of interest to me because I think while our country is developing even more than it already has, it's important to keep the environment in mind and try to keep things safe for not only us, but the surrounding environment. So that's of interest to me right now. But right now I'm just trying to get through the rest of school.
Well, good luck with everything. And again, thank you so much. And I'm glad that you had an excellent summer. That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of our sewer authority, Jesse. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. All right, we're going to continue then. And Jesse, you can stay with us if you'd like.
I actually have dinner waiting for me, but I appreciate the offer.
Dinner's more important.
Dinner wins.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
meeting, everyone.
Good luck.
Great job.
Okay. Next is the chairperson minutes. I just have a few things that I want to mention. The first thing is, again, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. Unfortunately, that was thrust upon Ed upon taking his position, and we're still in the midst of it. So I just want to emphasize the fact that we have procedures in place that need to be maintained, especially into the fall, which includes wearing masks, hand washing, have enough sanitizer, and that sort of thing. So I know it's easy for us to become complacent. It's been a long haul, but I just would like to reemphasize that. So thank you. And I did notice when I was going through the billing, Eds, that you purchased clean up after your dog signs. So it was funny seeing it in Jesse's presentation. Do we have a major problem down there?
Actually, we do, out along the sidewalk.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And the one other thing I'd like to bring up with folks, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I thought I'd bring it up to the board. And I believe we still have some money in our budget for us. These are turbulent times, and our community is being affected as well as other communities. I appreciate what our local groups are doing. So I would like to request that perhaps we buy 4 or 5 Conchi Strong signs, which benefit the CNC. I believe we're allowed to do that. Lauren, you can give me guidance on that, but I think it's appropriate. I think it's, but I'd like the board feedback on that.
Carol, what's the organization? The
The
benefit-
Colonial Neighborhood Council, they provide food for our, right, Shane?
Yes, it's our, basically it's our community outreach for low-income families in Colonial School District, anyone that is on Medicaid. And they have not only a food cupboard, but right now they're actually giving out bags of food, about 30 a day to families. But everything is verified, which gives you that level of confidence they're never being taken advantage of. Sandy runs a very tight ship.
It's a
And
wonderful organization.
it really is. And she coordinates so many other things, like through this, again, with the school district. Phyllis, I'm sure you know all this, that at the end of the year, anything that's left in the kids' lockers ends up with Sandy, and they sort everything by sizes. And they called the families in that could use the clothes, and like brand new sneakers, all kinds of really nice stuff. And she coordinates that type of community outreach. I think we should purchase a few of them, but we could just make a direct donation to the Colonial Neighborhood Council too. I like the idea of a few signs. Carol, I think that would show, support for the organization, but sometimes just writing a check right to Colonial Neighborhood Council could be helpful too. The other thing.
Well, I was thinking we could put some of those signs,
Sure, well, I think put
along
some of the
that
signs up
pathway,
around by
I
the sewer
think-
plant. I think so, definitely.
I agree with you. We can give a donation as well. I think these are especially troubling times.
Yeah,
I
they
would
are.
like to get 3 signs. I think people like, maybe it's just me, but I'd like the sewer to show visible support.
Right.
At least a couple signs.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it is. But what they
So-
use the cash for too is they buy small denomination gift cards to like Giant or Weiss, so people can get things like milk and bread. She doesn't usually get that stuff donated. So, but she's found not to give people like $100 gift cards. She's very, very practical and down to earth.
And I believe we are too as well. I believe we have a budget for charitable gifts that we have not, we did not go over this year. Shannon, do you know offhand?
Well, Shannon's looking that up. The authority, $1,000 is the limit that the authority is permitted to put towards a single charitable cause just as a guideline.
No, I understand that, but we actually have a total annual budget for that.
Right.
And I don't believe
Right.
thank you, Lauren. I appreciate
I can't imagine 3
Where-
signs would come to $1,000, but
No, I think
Well, the garden.
they 25. I think they might be 25 a
Are they
sign,
20? Are they 25?
or 20, something like that. They're not expensive.
Shannon?
So we still have like $3,000 left in the budget, so.
Jane, would you like to recommend a donation from the sewer
Sure. What would you think? Like 200-300 or
board? Yeah.
more?
I would go
Five?
up as well.
Yeah, 1,000.
I would say 1,000. I would say buy 4
$1,000.
signs and donate 900.
In this time, $1,000
That's
can go a
fabulous.
long
Oh my
way.
God, that would be wonderful.
Well, Jane, we have this in our budget, so and
Be such a great cause. It stays in our community. It's for the seniors. It's for the needy families.
well, do we need to pass a resolution here, Lauren?
it doesn't need to be a resolution, but it does need to be a formal vote.
Okay, well, I make a resolution that we donate $1,000 to the Colonial Neighborhood Council based on the sewer authority, and Ed, you can manage that, get us a few signs, and I make that motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And a roll call, Shane.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I frankly didn't expect it to go to this, but this
Yeah.
is, I think.
That's a wonderful idea, Carol.
I
Well,
agree.
we're being fiscally responsible because
Right.
we do set it in our budget, so.
Right. No, that's a fabulous.
Well, I'm
Well-
glad you brought that up, Carol, because I didn't know what was the motivation behind Country Strong. So I'm glad you brought that to our attention. And
My sign was stolen along with my Black Lives Matter sign.
I was wondering the same thing, Felix. So can we just go to Cologne? How do we actually get them as individuals? Like if
Through Yaniv, through Yaniv.
Okay.
Yes, just-
If you go
yes.
to Yaniv's webpage or his Facebook page, he
I don't
organized
have
it.
Facebook. That's my whole problem.
Ed, I'll send you his number.
Okay.
Ed,
Okay,
I'll send you all the contact information. I have it.
Thanks, Carol.
great, thank you.
I'm good.
But
Okay,
I'm overwhelmed. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, no, that's
this was-
wonderful.
No, I think it's great.
There has been a motion and a second, but I don't believe that we actually took the vote yet.
nope. Ready?
Thanks,
Okay.
Lauren, for hurting the cats.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna, any other questions? That's the end of my chairman's person's minute, so thank you. I'm overwhelmed. I appreciate it. Are there any questions?
Before we move forward about Jessie? Does she get to keep the hard hat, Ed?
I don't believe so.
She should be able to keep the hard hat.
If that's what you want to happen, I can make that happen.
Yeah, she could take it to college with her.
Absolutely.
Good
A nice
story.
memento.
Yeah, why not? You can buy that.
It'll work well in the dorm room.
Yeah, they're not too expensive.
Okay. Are there any questions or any changes to the minutes from last week?
No.
If not, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Jane Flanagan, Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. All right, so I guess we go to sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. We're going to the finance report. Are there any questions or comments on the finance report? I have a couple things I'd like to ask, but does anyone else have any questions?
I guess I have a question for Lauren. I'm still not sure where on the bill it says there's a file and a lien. Is that the same just as, what does that really mean? Like they already had the file and now you've got to the point you've put the lien on? Like it's more the legal process part I don't understand.
Sure. Oh, so yeah, so you're looking at like, there's a Christopher Harrington lien file number. Right. So once we file a lien, because we bill the cost of filing back to the property owner, so that the ratepayers don't absorb that, we open a new file so that it's all centered in one place.
Okay.
So for the filing of the lien and then the ultimate satisfaction will ultimately be filed are wrapped into the cost that's lien against each property.
Okay, so the $57 would be the cost of filing.
That's, I believe these are all satisfactions because I believe we have not liened in a little while. because of
Okay,
the
so
pandemic.
they're all satisfactions of the liens. Okay, that's where I wasn't sure because some of them seem to be a couple $100 and some were 57.
Yeah,
that's-
I'm looking at them now. A
Right.
lot of them seem to be 57. I'd have to
Right.
pull the individual ones to see if there was any that were more.
Right. Yeah, one was only 38. I didn't know if that was initially filing was 57, but you're saying that's when it's satisfied, it's 57.
I believe that's the satisfaction, yeah. And it looks like the general liens file was the $38. I'd have to go check our bills to see exactly what that was, but that's probably a 0.2 or something.
Okay, I just wasn't understanding the verbiage and also the different fees.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the satisfaction is, we bill the amount for the satisfaction, so that way it's the individual property owner that we're liening that absorbs that cost rather than the ratepayers.
okay, great. No, that makes sense. Thank you.
And Lauren, can you review our lien policy? We go for, what's it, $250 increments, which is essentially on average takes about 3 quarters to get there.
Right.
3
And we
billing
send
cycles?
multiple notices before we lien. Shannon sends the bills, obviously, and then we send notices just by regular mail. We ultimately send certified mail before we lien anyone. Again, we've kind of halted that process during everything that's going on, but it is that the courts are accepting lien filings again. It's just a matter of whether or not it's a policy the board wants to process.
Right, so that we're not leaning each time, we try to do it incrementally, so to limit the impact to the ratepayer on how much lien fees that they can accumulate. And we try to be diligent on not racking up the bill. And do it sparingly as much as possible. But keep the authority covered in terms of the liability that we're exposed to on the money that eventually we'll receive.
And dovetailing with that, about 2 years ago, the authority reinstituted shutoffs for water for severely delinquent accounts. So what we were able to do was get those accounts that were $5,000, $6,000 in arrears, which is about 5, 6, 7 years of not paying your sewer bill. So we were able to get those accounts to start paying off chunks of their bills. We actually have not to date shut anyone off. We've been able to resolve with payment plan letters, or we've actually gotten paid in full in a lot of accounts. So we're trying to narrow that gap between the properties that we lien and then the ones that get really severely delinquent. So that's been a very successful program so far. And then COVID happened.
So no water shutoffs for now.
So, to be honest with you, I'd have to check with Aqua to see whether or not they're doing them. I know as a policy, this board has directed staff to not proceed with any shutoffs while the pandemic is proceeding. Obviously, we're entering month 6, I think, of it. So I'm not sure if that's something the board wants to explore. We'd have to reach out to Aqua to find out what their policy is. I would imagine they've probably resumed shutoffs on their end, but we'd have to check.
Well, we would, if we start pursuing shutoffs now, we're getting into the winter season and they don't do shutoffs from October to April.
It's around there. Yeah, it's either October or November they stopped doing it.
So even if we did start now, nothing would happen until spring at earliest.
Right.
My feeling is we'll keep current policy until we see a more of a green environment in our COVID situation.
Revisit it in the February range.
Yeah, I agree with you, Felix. And again, I'd want, even if Aqua was doing that, I guess I'd find it hard to believe they're doing that, but who knows? But, we are still under the pandemic and we haven't had a need for that, right, Lauren?
So we do, and Shannon can probably answer this in more specifics than I'm able to, but I think we are starting to see some people that are falling off their payment plans.
Okay.
There's some that we've been able to, sometimes letters on my letterhead are helpful. It's a little bit more intimidating than letters from the authority. Some have resumed making payments, but some, I believe, are starting to fall behind again. We're not seeing any kind of the balances that we've seen previously before we started this shut-off process, but we are starting to see some balances creep up again.
Well, we were concerned about that too with everything going on.
But all of those properties are liened. So if they do go to foreclosure or if they are refinanced, the authority will get paid.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions for the finance report? I just wanted to mention, I saw the sludge costs, Ed, and I guess I'll let you and Fred speak to that when you guys have your portion. I saw it was a little over $8,000. I know you guys have been monitoring that. So I just want you to speak to that when you guys are up to let me know how that is fitting in with what we estimate our costs to be. So thank you. If there are no other questions on the finance report, do I hear a motion? Make sure I have this correct, Shannon. A motion to pay the bills in the amount of $89,369.02.
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Okay. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. And do I hear a motion to accept the finance report?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And roll call.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes.
Do you want to, in the packet, there was the health insurance renewal. Do you want to go over that now, or do you want to wait for Ed's report?
Actually, I think that's it. I didn't know if you were going to go over. I saw that was included, Shannon. I wasn't sure. Why don't you go over that? Because I believe we had discussed this previously. I don't know if folks got a chance to look at that. It's the new benefits package, and we had talked about this previously. We got this information late last week. So it talks about what our annual upgrades are going to be. The changes are our increased costs for healthcare. So Shannon, would you like to review that?
Sure. So the plan that we're currently on
And I'm going to
would
mute.
be listed as the bronze plan. And if we stay with that plan, it's a difference of $1,055.74 as a whole for the premium. The co-pays after you reach your deductible for prescription goes up by $5. It was 10 and it'll now be 15. And then the out-of-pocket max goes up by, it seemed just a couple $100 per person. If we switch to one of the other plans, like the silver plan, it would be the same co-pays after the deductible's reached, but your deductible is lower on the silver plan. So for individual, instead of $5,200, it would be $3,500. And for family, instead of $10,400, it would be $7,000. But the premium that we would be paying as the authority, or the total premium, would go up by almost $5,000.
Lauren, have you had a chance to look at these? We discussed this previously, did we not?
Yeah, so this comes up every year. Obviously, we do the renewal.
Thank you, Shannon.
One of these certainties in life is that health insurance costs go up. One thing to keep in mind is that the authority, for all of its employees, maintains an HRA account for each employee, so that a lot of these costs are actually reimbursed to the employee by the authority. So the out-of-pocket costs tend to be offset by the HRA. And then part of the proposal has the administration of the HRA account. And Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the same group that we've used for several years now, Harrington Group?
No, they are actually talking about switching to Harrington Group. Right now, we use the task card.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
remember she had questions. You had problems with that last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's the other thing. They want to switch to the Harrington Group. Right now, with the task card, they send us a monthly bill. Well, they give it quarterly, and we pay the same amount for 3 months at a time. Change it based on how much we use the task card or we don't use it. With the Harrington Group, we would have to set up a new bank account, put the money in there, and then they take it out as people pay for their prescriptions or whatever co-pays or whatever it is that they have to pay, instead of estimating it on a quarterly basis. So we'd be holding our own money, and we wouldn't be having money sitting in task just in case.
This has
And
to
is
go
the
through the
broker-
union, doesn't it, Lauren? I mean, this has to be accepted by the union.
So the union contract, which if you bear with me, I will pull up, just requires that we maintain the same or better type of healthcare. We did switch them over to HRA a few years ago, so as long
Yes,
as
we
we're
did.
continuing to provide that, we should be fine. If we are going to switch providers, obviously we would let them know, but I don't, and based on what Shannon's describing, I don't anticipate it being a problem. Shannon, who's
Okay.
recommending this? Is this coming from the broker?
Yes, it's coming from the broker.
Okay.
They apparently had many, many complaints about task. So they were looking for something else.
Yeah.
The brokers themselves actually switched from Task to this card also.
Oh, also, I'm just gonna jump in. I think we have it listed as the Harrington Group, but when I'm looking at when I looked at the information, I think it's the Harrison Group.
Oh, the Harrison. Okay.
It might be.
On our label, we're saying Harrington, but I think it's Harrison.
Thank
I
you.
think you're right. I think it is
No
Harrison.
problem.
Is in fact Harrison.
Okay. There you go.
So Lauren, I looked over this. I mean, we got the, thank you, Shannon, for sending this out. I looked over this over the weekend, but I guess I'm wondering, I wasn't presented this beforehand. Lauren, are you making a recommendation, or Shannon, are you making the recommendation on our certain plan here going forward? This is what I'm asking.
The recommendation that I would make would be to stay with the bronze plan. That is also the recommendation that the broker went with also, because of the extra cost for the other plans.
I'll jump in as well. I think I remember when we looked at this, and I think we may have looked at it. Was it last year, the bronze versus the silver? Or
We
was
did, but it
and
was,
I think I remember we went into a pretty deep analysis, and I think Carol, was it you and I? Was it the finance committee where we or I forget where we looked at it, but I remember we went into a pretty thorough analysis.
it was a group board meeting, but yes, it was a very thorough analysis, and we have
and
a
I think I
broker that-
remember we decided on the bronze as opposed to the silver for a variety of reasons, which I understood much more clearly at the time.
I believe it was the right choice for the demographics that we have in the sewer authority. I mean, the costs are going to be going up. I mean, that's where we work with Kathy, as well as that, because we're going to have to budget that for future increases in healthcare costs. So do we need a motion, Lauren?
Yes, so I'm assuming that you're going to make the motion to renew the health insurance at the bronze level and switch to the, did we decide it's Harrington or
Harrison.
Harrison.
Harrison?
That would be my
Administrator.
recommendation. Does the board concur?
I concur.
Okay.
Right, so that would be the motion, and then I think Janine made a second, so then it would be a vote to carry that motion.
I just wanted to check that we were all, Molly agrees, we're all on the same page.
Okay, so we're doing bronze plan with the Harrison group.
Yes.
While we were here, I double checked the union agreement, which requires that the authority provide group medical insurance under a PCHDHP plan with the amount of the deductible to be determined by the employer, and the employer establishes the HRA for each covered employee to cover 100% of the deductible.
So Shannon, I had a question in terms of the HRA management. So is that what Harrison's group does, is manage our HRA cost? Basically giving our employees a card to take to the doctor with them?
Yes, and then I would do a monthly journal entry, splitting it between the departments based on the employee.
Okay. Now, is there many firms out there that provide this type of service?
The brokers didn't mention any other ones, and I haven't
All right,
seen any.
so I just want to make sure that we did our due diligence on, making sure that this type of service is, how much does it cost relative, to other opportunities?
Well, Lauren, we did do that previously and stuck with this broker. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what happens is the authority engages a professional that does that heavy lifting for you. So they actually go out and they get the proposals from the different insurance companies, the different administrators, and then they make a recommendation. You want to have them find some additional proposals from additional administrators, you certainly can. Shannon, what's the deadline for the renewal?
I'm not sure what the deadline is, but I know our insurance changes October 1st.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure when they have to have it by.
I know it's, yeah, October is correct.
We're coming up on it, but if you want to get a couple extra
I'm good with
proposals.
moving forward. It's just I was trying to figure out this going from task card to Harrison Group.
Well, it was the recommendation of the
Right,
broker.
correct.
We did that last year. I do remember. We could probably look that up. We did.
I
We
don't
had
think it's a
someone that
major
came-
cost center, but I was just curious.
No, it's my biggest budget, so cost.
No,
I have.
so
Well, just
so
the management of the HRA. That's
yeah,
all
well,
I know.
so I believe with the Harrison Group, it's $7.20 a month per employee,
Yeah.
and
All right.
and the task card was like $7.60
All right, so
per employee.
okay. Let's move forward.
Well, it was a good question,
Okay.
Felix. You wanted
All right.
to. Thank you.
Okay, so roll call. I'm gonna do Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. Okay. Lauren, we go to the solicitor's report.
Sure. So I will let Nicole walk everybody through the action items this evening. There are a few of them. We've been working closely with Ed regarding several personnel items, which I would like to discuss in executive session with the board following the meeting. Sorry. Every time, as soon as it's my turn to talk. So we've been working with Ed on a couple of personnel items, which I'll update the board on in executive session. We've also continued to work with Ed to continue to update all the protocols surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Most recently, we've been working regarding vacation and travel policies. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has issued recommendations, but not mandates. So we've been working with Ed to figure out different policies and procedures, particularly with regard to our employees that cannot work remotely. So we've been working closely with Ed on that. And with that, I will ask Nicole to walk through the action items this evening.
So we have just a few action items this month. We had like a million last month, so we won't go too hard on you this month. The first one, we would be recommending approval of a resolution to authorize and direct the authority operations manager to execute the master agreement for casting adjustments with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. This is an agreement, I believe the term of the agreement is 10 years. However, we most recently signed one in 2017. And we're already a party to this agreement. They've made some updates to it and sent the updated version for our approval. And basically it provides that as PennDOT is going through and doing road work, if something has to be updated or some kind of repair needs to be done with the sewer authority's manholes or casting adjustments need to be made, they will do that. And they will coordinate with us to get that done while they are doing the work that they're doing. So this would be a resolution authorizing Ed to sign this agreement.
I'll make that resolution. I'll make that proposal.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sure. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes.
And so then the remaining two items are with regard to the project located at 133 Cedar Avenue, which is getting wrapped up. So the first one is a resolution to accept dedication of facilities for the project located at 133 Cedar Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes,
Carol Smith,
Yes.
whoever I am.
And then now that we have accepted dedication, the next one is the resolution to release maintenance security for that project.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
okay, Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo, Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes.
You're fine.
And that concludes our report.
There are no questions for our solicitors. Do I hear a motion to accept the solicitor's report?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley, Carol Smith.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Time for the engineer's report. Hey, Fred.
Hey, how you guys doing? Bunch of good things this month. Of course, my screen just went blank on me. First thing is the 2000 and our 10-year budget. We presented the 10-year budget to oops, if I can pull that back to Plymouth Township, and we did it with we used the red line version of last year because there were a number of changes that we had done that we discussed last time for the potential financing that we're looking at. And we went over everything with Karen and Chris Lasciavo. They didn't have any questions. They actually understood exactly what we were doing. They understood with the interest rates why we would want to do this. And they really had no questions at all. But they obviously can't make the decision. So they're going to take it in front of Borough Council on September 8th. And the options that they're going to go over is, number one, they could accept this and pay forward as they have been, and pay it forward as the costs are incurred. Option two would be to participate with us in the loan and finance it over a 20-year. And we were very clear with them that if they chose that option, that they could always pay it off early. So they could defer it out because they have a cash crunch. A lot of their money comes in from commercial taxes. They're down about $2 million in revenue, primarily from the mall and the other big boxes that were shut down and were not essential. The other option that they had was that they could enforce the agreement, which says that there's no changes greater than $100,000 for a period 3 years into the future, and could say, no, our agreement says that we can't adjust these costs up. And then, or the other option would be that they could go back to their $400,000 a year finance, or they give us and we equalize it. And they realized that we gave them back $400,000 last year because of the number of grants that we received. This year, we're most likely also going to give them $400,000 back because we've been shut down with COVID as far as capital projects. And depending on what happens next year, and what I'll discuss later on, we received another grant in over $400,000, of which, they only pay, a smaller percentage of that. But a lot of our projects, we've been able, because of diligently pursuing the grants, have not had to have them have the expenditure. So she really had a really open mind. They were very positive about that. They understood why we were doing it. They realized we were only shifting it up a year or two. We went over the changes in the budget, things such as the substations. They totally understood that. They got that. They really had no technical questions. They had actually asked us more about the success that we've had in some of our projects, because they're actually starting to mimic them in theirs with the lining and things like that they hadn't done before that they're now following. So we'll really have to wait and hear back from them.
So they have to manage their own lines there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they realize that in lieu of grouting, they're following the procedures that we're doing at these cooling place pipeliners because of the long-term success that the whole industry's had. I don't want to say it's just to that technology, and they now have a much, more comfort level with it. Actually during the meeting, we actually went over budgeting items, the rules of thumb, how do you budget it? How do you do that? Who are the players? Because they're looking at different ways of bidding it out so they can get some of the contractors that they want out there. So they were looking at utilizing through co-stars is what I'm saying, rather than publicly bidding it, purchasing it on co-stars directly. So it was a positive meeting, but yet they really have no say. So they're just basically going to present it to their council at their work session on the 8th of September, and then get back to us with where it is. And I think it's fitting much more into their more global budget issues that they are having. And I don't necessarily mean that as a negative, but when you're down $2 million in revenue, that's a hard number to overcome. So I think they're looking at that, and they were extremely appreciative for all the money that we saved in the last 2 years, because that built up a surplus that's assisting them going through this initial time.
Fred, I have a question for the September 8th meeting. Are there any requests for us to be present to answer questions or anything?
We actually asked that, and we're going to follow up. She was going to poll the board and see where it is. Now, Karen's unfortunately or fortunately on vacation this week, so she'll be back next week. But she was going to poll the board and see if we needed that. Chris Lasciavo felt relatively comfortable that he could explain it there, but we definitely offered that, and we will be following up with her on Monday, August 31st. Yeah, because it's a technical thing. I mean, there's reasons there. And they are recently going through the same thing with the East Norton Plymouth Joint Authority as well, where some projects are getting shifted around.
Well, to speak to Felix's point, I mean, I do hope you're there. I think it might be good that you're there, but they'll let you know, I guess.
Yeah, and one of the things that we stressed was a proactive thing, especially with the sludge thing that got moved up, was that not only are we not going to pay for operation and maintenance costs of it being down and liquid hauling, but just taking advantage of the new technology. And Chris Lasciavo was very complimentary of that approach and going in there. So they got it, and I'm quickly summarizing an hour-and-a-half meeting that we had there where we went over it, but they were very well prepped for it when we walked in. But I do agree that it's, I'm not sure that the average layperson, it needs to be explained in a simple manner that we're being proactive for long-term savings rather than waiting and going through there.
And again, congratulations on the grant.
Oh, we might as well jump right into that one. So I'm very, very happy that.
Oh, you mentioned it, so I just.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, we're literally have done our entire lining problem of the entire interceptor from in Plymouth Township all the way to the treatment plant for 15 cents on the dollar. I mean, literally 15 cents on the dollar. I mean, we literally have spent less than $200,000, or right around $200,000, to do almost $1.5 million worth of work. I mean, it's just all. I mean, with our partner, we're giving our partner back, $800,000. I mean, we had a 5-year deal with them where they paid $400,000 a year, and we literally have given them back $800,000. I mean, it's just, and we need to thank our politicians for it. That was very well done on that. So with that, we're actually going to be able to do almost at the same time, probably our phase 2 liner project and our phase 3 liner project. So that I'm hoping that by going out, and right now, if the sooner I can get this out, the better. Normal lining contract, I get 3 to 4 bidders on. I just did one in Lower Makefield Township where I had 12 bidders. The prices, I look bad because the prices came in 40% lower than the engineer's estimate. So right now, because everything's been shut down and lining has become so popular that they've been able to buy things in bulk. Now I was very conservative. That's a very tough rural backyards, deep wet access area. So I was probably conservative, but right now is a time. I've never had more than 3 to 4 bidders on a lining project. And we got 12 there. And I can watch the prices drop down on Penn Bid. Literally, guys put a bid up, they took it down, put a bid up, took it down, right up to the very end. So we are going to push that.
Fred, when it comes to lining contractors, how many in a region would you expect to see? Are they coming from outside the state?
Oh, all of them are. Ohio, Missouri, New Jersey. There's 3 or 4 local guys. Now, they're probably nationwide firms, but they're out of Mechanicsburg, Harrisburg. There's 3 or 4 guys that we've kind of been the industry standard. And occasionally we get one of the outsiders coming in from the outside. Now, the outsiders have established yards. One of my criteria was they had to have a yard, so close to it. But they've established yards out here, and there's just so much more work in Pennsylvania than there is in the other states that they've all come. And basically, COVID shut everybody down. So it's easier to, rather than lay guys off, you have them go out there and they work 4/12 and they stay in a hotel room. So
yeah. So right. So that was the red flag when you typically expect 5, 6 contractors, you get 12. Then you're getting people outside your normal pool, which sometimes affects the quality. It might affect the reliability. So you get an unknown factor sometimes.
And I was very lucky that a local person that I knew got it.
Well,
because that would have been a very hard decision, because I check references on the 3 and 4. And I'm calling engineers in Ohio and Missouri who I don't know. They don't know me. When I call a local engineer, it's a tight-knit unit. We all tell each other the truth.
We're all within the industry, right?
Yeah. And there, I'm outside my world. I don't know people in Ohio. I don't know people in Missouri. I don't know people in Kentucky.
But
they consider a good job.
A good job. It's just a matter of it's now an unknown relationship, and sometimes that induces risk, where you got to chase somebody down to finish a project.
Exactly. So, but that's just the environment that we're in right now. I think other states, because they're more global, they're either county or statewide, they're shut down on their contracting much more than Pennsylvania, which is much more, township, borough. We just have a lot more diversity and a lot more, longer planning, whereas when they shut down a budget, they're shutting down across the board on things, because it's impacted by more than just sewers outside of, I'll say, Pennsylvania. Even when you go to Delaware and New Jersey, it's much more county based than Pennsylvania is.
And I had another question, Fred. In your report, where does it discuss the grant?
Believe it or not, the grant didn't get back in. I didn't get all the documents back in there, so it's not in there. So that's a hidden surprise for tonight. Yeah, that's a hidden surprise for tonight. And I will tell you that we were probably one of only about 7 or 8 that got a full award. Almost everything else, because of COVID, they really split it up, and they probably awarded to twice as many applicants as they normally do, but for half as much money. So, and I didn't check it this year to see if we were the highest, but we are very close to the highest award amount that was out.
That's amazing.
We received a full award that way. So yeah, it was, we have to thank our local representatives for pushing down that way, because it was, and like Plymouth always gets one. Plymouth didn't get one. A lot of the people that normally get it didn't get it. But there was it was a.
So obviously we'll put this in our newsletter.
Absolutely.
Also, can we get this up on our website and maybe a press release?
Yep, Nicole forwarded Ed a draft of an article earlier today.
There we go. Thank you.
And we have the authority Facebook page. We can put it on as well.
I think we should.
Yeah,
also...
I was going to mention that I haven't seen the Facebook page, and that was actually, thanks, Felix. That was something I had on my list that I neglected. Yeah, put that on the Facebook page. But I did want to ask you, Ed. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting the engineers. When is the next billing cycle in the newsletter?
October.
That would be, Shannon. Would that be September?
September, October.
Yep,
yeah.
the bills should go out the very end of September.
September, okay. Are there any more questions on the engineer? Are you not done yet?
No, I'm not done yet. And we hit one more thing on that for the board to
Okay.
talk about, because I'm not sure how I feel about it. But like, one of the things that I think I would like to get out to our residents and our customers is the cumulative effect of all of these grants against what it would have done. You know, I like that. The con to that is I don't want people to get jealous and thus not get more grants in the future. But I think publicity for the politicians and the residents to know that, hey, listen, we've gone after this and we've been successful, and you paid 15 cents on the dollar. And it's not one. We lined an entire interceptor, $1.5 million for, you know, literally 15% of that. It's a pretty impressive accomplishment, you know, overall,
Lauren,
and it has had a long impact on them.
What you have drafted, would that be appropriate for the website as well?
Yeah, the intent was to post it on the website, Facebook, and release it. So I just want to take a quick look at it before it goes up, but it should be pretty close to ready to go in the morning.
Excellent.
Next item on the same basic item, which is our phase 2 liner project. Lauren Nicole did a great job of getting our contracts signed with SEPTA. And now we're moving into the position where we can coordinate and directly go out there. Unfortunately, SEPTA was hacked. So all of their engineering files are in quarantine. They can't even access emails or anything going back. So Jonathan of my office and Nicole actually had reached out to their solicitor, and she was the one who informed me as to why we didn't have contacts and were being delayed. So she picked up the phone call, called the chief engineer, and they're going to assign someone. A lot of this is because of how closely we're working with them on the train station and how helpful we've been with them on the train station. So it's almost a quick quid pro, or, you know, they're coming back and, you know, because we're helping them. And I know that she was trying to get that same engineer because he's got a good relationship with us. I mean, he definitely is not afraid to call at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. And he's also not afraid to email on a Saturday morning. And, he gets responses, so he is very appreciative of that. I've heard that come back.
Who did SEPTA get hacked by?
I don't know. I just got an email from their attorney. He told me that they were hacked. All files are in quarantine. So I guess they're hacked virus, and I guess they're being blackmailed for it right now.
Yeah.
And they can't even get. I forget the date if it was like August 15th. From then on, they have no access to any emails that they've received since August 15th.
This is a very common issue. I don't know if we should do an internal review because they go after smaller entities and school districts. Believe it or not, Souderton School District got hacked big time. And Jane, you probably know about this. So I don't know if we should probably do a quick review of our system.
You probably want to, because Toll Brothers was taken down. There are 2 competing engineering firms. CKS was taken down. I mean, there's a lot of people, and I'm not sure who our IT consultant is, but I will tell you that I spent a significant amount of money because I can't afford to be hacked and be out of business because you're basically down. So yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of money being robust, and I would highly recommend it because they've done a lot of errors in ours.
I'm not sure if our IT person is up to that. Felix, that's a really good point, and I hadn't thought of it until you mentioned that, Fred, with the SEPTA hacking. Laura, do you know yeah.
I don't know if our current IT company does provide those types of services, but Nicole and I can work with Ed over the next week or two to figure that out. And if not, we can find some companies that do.
All right,
I know that we've been in touch with the borough to discuss having a server located in the borough issue in case there's a fire or something at the plants. That way, all of our files are protected that way. So those conversations are ongoing, but this is a little bit of a different issue.
Right.
So yeah, we'll work with that to figure that out over the next week or so.
I say coordinate with the borough and follow their best practices too.
Right, find out who they use.
Absolutely.
Right, next thing is just a quick update on a number. We actually have a lot of construction and a lot of developments going through right now. 51 Washington it's a really tough installing a new line in an industrial area, and they have hit a lot of conflicts. of gas mains, and apparently a lot of utilities were just abandoned in place down there and never marked. No one has records of. So they've actually had to rip out and start over at least twice on this job. They are now down under the Fayette Street Bridge. They're basically done. They're down to the last 120 feet of pipe that has to be installed, and they're waiting for a new manhole with a new angle. But they actually even, came into conflict with our force main and other things as they tried to move out of the way. So that has been a challenge. A lot of conference calls, a lot of rework, but they're there. And that's just the nature of doing business down in a area that's been redeveloped many times over history. And unfortunately, back in the day, original industry just abandoned things in place. They just left the 12-inch gas main and water mains and things like that in there. So, but I will say the contractor's done a pretty good job. He's frustrated and he's a handful at times, but he's done a very good job. He wants to get out of there. Except the train station, as I said, doing a lot of coordination for their lateral and getting in there, but they've been really receptive. We've given them kind of holding their hand through the planning module process because it's not something that they normally do, surprisingly, and they usually use outside consultants. So we've gone through that. Matson Mill Apartments, which is the next project upriver, I would say, from 51 Washington. Their easements are, they're doing their final easements. So they're literally down the final home stretch on everything. And then we have about 6 or 7 other projects that were in plan reviews and or shop drawings through. So everyone seems to be going through relatively smoothly. It's been a lot of small projects, but there's a lot of projects going on right now. It's really active down there. So that completes my report, unless the board has any questions.
Any questions for Fred?
Make a
Fred.
motion to accept the engineer's report.
Oh, I have one question,
Oh,
Jill.
sorry, Jane, go for it.
No, that's all right. On page 6 of 36 on your report, where it says replacement of existing belt filter press at the cost of $1 million, that's for one press would be $1 million. So if we wanted to buy 2 smaller ones, what would the price be about?
No, I actually included 2 smaller ones, actually 2 that would be appropriately sized. The actual cost of the original belt filter press was $2,100,000 for belt filter press. We're looking at a centrifuge. A centrifuge, the budgetary price on it is $275,000. So I actually have 2 of them in there. However, the building the building's significantly deteriorating because of the gases. So one of the things that we're looking at is replacing some of the metal supports that are inside the building and maybe some of the outside shell. It looks very nice from the outside, but if you actually dig into it, the gases have significantly eaten away a lot of the metal. There was a lot of supports that we found that were failing when we were installed the odor control system and had to support those big, relatively lightweight pipes. There was no supports in there, and they were in poor shape. So while we saved over $1 million, I padded the budget a little bit to do building upgrades. So when we go in and do this, you always have the removal of the existing equipment, the installation of 1, maybe 2. But at the same time, I'd like to approach it now. The odor control system is helping it because you get a lot of air changes. So it's not deteriorating as fast. But it's like a rusted car. Once it started to rust, it's rusted. So I've included 2 of those in there, knowing that I may only be able to install 1 if the building's a lot worse than I think it is.
Oh, okay.
But if the building's not bad, then we can have 2 of them that we can alternate, because my goal is not only to have more efficient, but to have no downtime. With hauling, and that's the problem we have now. This is one of the only things in our treatment plant that we don't have redundancy for. And the reason you get away from redundancy is you can always live with haul. But if I can take a $2 million line item and make it $1 million and have 2 of them, that's the proper way of doing it.
Okay.
So that's been my recommendation. Knowing that the building has an issue, I can take it and only install 1 and maybe do another one in 5 years or 10
The
years.
filter press has run its end of the life. And
Right, that's what needs to be replaced.
And yes, and
So it will be,
it's a little over 10, almost 10 years about, I
No.
think. And
It's closer to 15.
Yeah.
I thought we got that right when I started in 2009. I thought that's what,
Carol,
anyway.
when we first got on, that's when they were just wrapping up the installation of that.
Yeah.
And
and
doing
we've
the
had
commissioning work.
So the centrifuges are actually going to be more, I believe you
Right,
said more
efficient.
efficient, Ed,
Oh,
right,
well.
more efficient and cost saving, right,
and less mechanically
right.
corruptible.
yeah, and by having two of them, then you can, it basically what it is it just operates at a lower pressure. You can't operate something at a high pressure and run it continuously and then shut it down every weekend. If it ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, high pressure isn't that bad. It's when you shut it down, it just doesn't track. And the problem now we have is that we can't get manufacturers' original parts when we
Right.
do retrofit. And it's just like any high pressure thing, it's a Swiss watch. It's got to fit together perfectly. And when it does it, it wears one side. When that side wears, it breaks something else. So that's in there.
Yeah, I understand, thank you.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll steal a little bit of Ed's thunder, but so we don't forget, Carol had asked about the sludge, and I think Ed and I had talked earlier today on that, and I think we're normally around $9,000 to $10,000 a month. I think we're at 8,000, so we're about 20% less sludge on average. Some months are higher depending on the billing cycles, and that's because we're decanting. It wasn't as much as we originally thought that we were saving, but it's definitely helping. And I think your guys are working. Maybe Ed, you can describe to the board what you guys are doing as far as decanting and how it's impacting our actual sludge production.
Well, I
yeah.
appreciate that, Fred and Ed, because it's something that we asked you to look at because I was concerned about that and the costs. So,
Well, during the COVID, when COVID first started, we were doing on average 10 dumpsters a month. And now that we started decanning and extra offloading, we've been reducing that to on average of 8 dumpsters a month. So the dumpsters, depending on how full they are, they can vary. Sometimes they have more or less in there. So I think on average it's just over $1,000 per dumpster. So if we were to have 8 of them, it should be close to around 9,000, I would believe, give or take.
Which is a pretty significant reduction in cost with no technology, just literally us monitoring our treatment plant biologically and just taking advantage of it. And I think had we not had COVID, there's more potential we can get out of it. We just haven't had a chance to play with it. And you really don't want to, under these conditions, you don't want to play with it. But sometimes when you play with it, it gets off kilter. The more you try to optimize something, you can go too far. And it just gets hard to go back in. So once again, that completes my report.
if there are no questions, do I hear a motion to accept Fred's report?
I'll make that motion.
That second?
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. Okay, Ed, you're up.
Sorry, let me throw one thing back in here that I don't think any of us discussed.
Fred won't let you, but anyway.
Is that, and this is for Lauren, we had coordinated with the CFA to have both Ed and Carol be signatures on that. Do we wait till next month for them to be authorized to sign the grant documents, Lauren? Or would we want to have authorization now for them to sign the grant document? The actual contracts are being shipped out to us apparently this week.
I would want to wait until we get the contract documents anyway, and I think they usually require a resolution. They should have a form of resolution in their document.
Okay. Sorry about that. I just remembered that we were getting it.
Okay, can I go?
It's all yours, Ed. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start my report with a question back to the healthcare conversation. Would we require a resolution to open a new bank account just for the HRA funds?
So historically, we have done new bank accounts by resolution, so we'll prepare that next week.
Okay. All right, back to my regular report. Fred spoke already about the Phase 3 grant, which is great. I have it on my list to post that once we finalize the announcement. We'll have it on our 3 outlets here. We had a training session last week for the new jet truck. It was, the company came out, did a hands-on training with everybody, actually went out in the field and they flushed some lines. So everybody got a good amount of training on there. So hopefully we'll have enough to further that with in-house trainings from here out. Last week I attended a webinar on strategic asset management. So I went over capital budgeting, planning and tracking of capital improvements, stuff like that. That was a free webinar, came with a certificate, and I felt I got something out of it. Last week I submitted our Form 43 samples. They're for our permit for disposal of sewer sludge. So that's going to be up for renewal, I believe, next month. So they're already out to the lab waiting for the results. At the end of this month, it is August 31st through September 2nd is the 2020 PMAA annual conference, which is going to be virtual, obviously. So Carol and I are registered to attend that. Looking forward to that.
And that's something, if any of the board members would like to attend, let Ed know, and the authority would sign up, because the authority is a member of PMAA. All sorts of courses that they offer. Janine, they do offer CLE credit for some of them. So if it's something that you're interested in, just let Ed know. He can get you the schedule, classes, and all that.
Well,
What are the dates again?
I believe it starts on Monday, right?
Yes, it's the Monday the 31st through September 2nd.
We did send out a note to all the board members about it. Just we were not remiss there, but
Well,
it starts on Monday.
It's virtual now.
It's
assuming.
virtual. Yes.
Yeah. See, I think I couldn't go because it's the start of school. I couldn't go in
Last year, right?
Yep.
And I think
They do have some really.
Here, this is the start of school, Monday.
Ed, can you send? I'm sorry, Ed. Can you send that out to? Is anyone else interested? Could you send that out to the board again after this meeting, because it does start next week. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I highly recommend it as well. I got a lot out of it.
Okay. The other thing I had was I attended another COVID meeting with the borough virtually. We're down to one a month now, so we discussed, COVID-related topics such as events that may or may not happen, like the Fun Fest, fireworks, anything that affects our local first responders and our businesses, and of course the sewer plant. And the last thing I have actually is we got a request from a property owner at 111 West 8th Avenue. I included that report with my report in the packet. Apparently somebody drove a vehicle into their home, and they're saying it's uninhabitable. So they're requesting that we waive our quarterly service fee until I guess they get it.
Lauren, what is our usual procedure with that? Because
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the board has authorized this a couple of times in the past when there's been a fire or for some reason a property is uninhabitable. There is an agreement, I believe it's up to 2 years it gives them to hold those payments and not have to make those payments. They'll get to keep their ED credit. If they do get to a point where it is habitable again, or we start seeing meter reads, it would automatically then reinstate the service fee. So if the board is of a mind, this would be consistent with prior practice.
And Lauren, I think it is. What is your opinion on this? Did you see the?
I think it's entirely appropriate. They're not in the services, and they're obviously going through a difficult time.
Yeah, a truck hit their house. So
that's a bad.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion or a resolution? Okay.
Motion will be appropriate, and then Nicole will prepare an agreement for them.
I would make that motion.
I'll second that. Sorry.
And it's gonna be good for 2 years, and then I'll have
2 years and then, so at the end of 2 years, would that be considered abandon their EDU? And then if a builder wanted to put something there again, they'd have to reapply?
Precisely. So they could either catch up on the quarterly service fees or pay for a new EDU. Paying the quarterly service fees is usually less expensive.
Okay. Okay.
Roll call? Do we need a roll call for that?
Yes, we do.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes. Okay, and is that it, Ed?
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Ed,
it.
there's one thing that we had wanted to discuss this month, which had to do with the GIS of the force main, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
So, and I'll let you, you can go ahead and explain it from there.
Okay. We ran into a situation that Fred spoke about earlier with a project down near our force main where it comes under the Conshohocken Bridge and it literally disconnects into one of our manholes. I guess we never really were supplied with an as-built for that force main, so we have difficulty marking it with precise accuracy. So I think I was talking to Lauren, trying to get some advice, and I think I mentioned Fred as well, how we would go about maybe bringing a firm in that could mark it for us, maybe trace it for us with a better degree of certainty. So
Trouble hearing, Ed. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble with hearing you.
is everybody else hearing me?
It does sound like the sound's going a little in and out. But basically the force main, I think Ed's recommending that we get that properly GIS so that we know exactly where that is for future one. I believe John had indicated that he thinks that the cost will be well below the threshold even required to obtain 3 quotes. So Ed is just looking for authority to move forward if he's able to get a quote that's under the threshold.
And to explain to the board, what you end up doing is you actually hook up where it's visible because it's ductile iron. You actually hook up an electric current to it because there's so many metal utilities in there. You can't use any traditional, locating device. But it was off pretty significantly 3 feet, enough that it could have been a conflict. So it is something that, and that way we could clearly define it, and they paint dots on the road, and then you have a surveyor come in and actually survey it. So we know exactly where it is and they can find it accurately in the future for PA1 calls. And this is going to become more and more important as more and more infrastructure goes into both. You have 51 Washington that basically uses this as an entrance, Matson Mill, and then you're going to have the SEPTA train station in its many, I don't know how many phases, but multiple phases. So us not knowing where that is, it would be something we should know where it is, because the concern there is that if somebody hits it, that's all of West Conshohocken. There's no pumping and hauling that with trucks. That's a pretty significant amount of flow, and not in an easy location to get to, down at the pump station. So that's, so go ahead, Ed. Sorry to keep on stealing your thunder.
Yeah,
No, that's okay.
Fred, that is a pretty large risk that we run there if something was to happen to that force main. I mean, is there a thought given to what we would do in the event that would we had a problem with that? I think we just talked about this a couple of years ago.
We did.
And also, we had our system, GIS, the whole entire borough collection system. Do we want to talk about getting West Conshohocken's collection system, have it on the system?
I think we definitely should. I think that was going to be something part of our long-term plan that we're.
Yeah, I thought that was part of I thought you had already had that on part of your plan, Fred, for us continuing.
We did, because you only saw the budget that related to Plymouth. There's I call it the second page of that budget, which is the Conshohocken only that is in there, and that is definitely there. To answer your question, Felix, is that we would run an overland pipe from underneath the Fayette Street Bridge basically a big tube would run parallel to the train tracks. That was not, that plan is now flawed because before, no one really went down there and past that. The problem with that is now is that while there's drivable ramps, you have a significant amount of traffic that's going to come in and out of there. I'm sure that there's going to be multiple ways where they're going across the bridge, but with potentially 600 apartments down in that area, that's a lot more traffic. Before we could just shut the road down, and it was basically Sneaky's operation was the only one that was down in there. So that is something that we've talked about internally, and also maybe getting a wet tap or putting a special connection, almost like a fire hydrant connection, so that if that does happen, we have that. And we have it set up so we can get it across the bridge. We know how to do that, and we have specialty contractors for that. But we were just going to lay flat hoses, basically right up if it broke in that area. But the contractor came pretty close to hitting it. I mean, it was 3 feet off. He dug down with a big bucket, and luckily, and it's all backfill down there. It's not like you realize there's another third trench. So it's something that we're internally talking about, and we'll report back to the board next month with some stronger recommendations, because it's, when you do a risk assessment of our authority, it's probably one of the biggest ones. We did a lot of the other ones when we did the diesel pump. I can pump anything around the plant. I can do that. That single straw from West Conshohocken is a concern.
So in the short term, like I said, with the GIS, that the force main is really the priority. So Ed's looking to get that done sooner rather than later. So he's looking for advanced approval if he's able to find, like I said, a quote that's underneath that threshold. So if the board's of a mind to make that motion, that would be appropriate. Or he can bring it to the board next month.
I'll make the motion. You want
I'll
to?
second. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll second that. I don't believe there's a need to wait. We're looking, this is something that needs to be done. It's a risk for us, and Molly agrees. So.
And there's going to be a lot more construction going on. The sewer line going up to 51 Washington was the first one. There's going to be a lot of other things out there, and I'm sure there's going to be multiple firms that are going to be doing, digging in that area, and making sure that it's properly marked is one of our biggest things.
So Lauren, do we? Sorry.
Motion is second to go for a roll call.
Right. Yep.
Sorry, Molly threw me off track there. Be right back.
Who are you talking to?
Did you ask me? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't do the roll call yet because I was waiting for her to come back.
Oh. It's a sewer board meeting. My husband does it, so.
We got three.
Okay, right. So, all right. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes.
I'm here.
Carol Smith.
Yes. All the dogs are getting antsy, I guess.
Maybe there's a full moon or something. I don't know.
Okay, so we're at the point to accept Ed's report. Is that where we're at? All right. Do
I'll
I hear
make
a
that
motion
motion.
to accept the plant manager's report?
We'll make it.
Do I hear a second? I think Felix, did you second?
Yeah, I said second.
And a roll call.
Okay, Jane Flanagan.
Yeah.
Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley, Carol Smith.
Yes. And if there are no questions on the collections and maintenances report, does anyone have any questions? I would request a motion to accept the collections and maintenance report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Jane Flanagan. Raimondo,
Yes.
Janine Riley,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, are we adjourning into executive, Lauren?
Yes. Very brief tonight.
Okay.
See you guys.
Thanks, Fred.
Fred,
Thanks,
Hey,
Fred.
Fred.
Bye-bye.
Brad,
Bye.
So it's just the board, correct? And,
And Ed will be on this one too.
okay.
Okay, and
And
I
I
can
need-
go? Do you want me to go?
You can go, Shannon.
Okay.
Thank you, Shannon.
bye, Shannon.
yeah.
And
All right, so I gotta stop recording. Are you sure you want to stop?